now.
All right. I'd like to call the special Park and Rec Commission meeting for Tuesday, May 19th. I want to thank all the Park and Rec board members or department members and commissioners to getting on this special call. So thank you very much for your time and taking a few moments out of your day. Stacy, you got some good information that you want to present to us in regards to, I guess, the pool opening bid. So I'll let you start via the agenda, and then we'll jump into some other things that kind of have transpired within the last 48 hours that I'd like to bring up. So I will yield the floor to you, Stacy.
Great, thank you. So the bid, as you know, at our last look, we had the first run of levels 1, 2, and 3. The staff and I looked at the levels and made sure that we highlighted some items that we thought, despite what the contractors think, we believe they should be at a level 1 being the bare necessities, level 2 being mid-range, and level 3, the Cadillac version of the pool opening. So there was a few things. So if you look at the booklet that Kristen sent out this morning, Kristen?
Went out yesterday.
Thank you, Kristen. Kristen, you are also in as an attendee. Do you know that? Sweet. And so the levels have changed a little bit. The original level, and I'm going to use very round numbers here, level 1 was about 19, level 2 was about 31, level 3 was roughly 120, and those are round numbers. So level 1 has now jumped to, or popped up to 31. Level 2 is 46.5, and level 3 is still at the 120. So those are the real numbers that we're looking at. Those are the ones that the staff feel more comfortable with. Staff, if I am speaking wrong, feel free to jump in. But there was a few things at the original that we were like, we have to have Weston and Sampson do this. They need to be the ones to start this up. So it did jump a bit, but basically our level 2 is now our level 1, if you want to look at it that way. And we feel more comfortable with that. So that's the extent of it. I mean, it's all in there. A lot of it may look Greek to you guys, but it did make sense to us. So no fear there. And if you have any questions, let me know. Basically, we can answer some questions. We can talk about this, and then we'll have you guys, we can talk next about where you want to go with this, which level you want to choose for this particular summer.
Okay, I have questions.
Cynthia?
All right, I have questions. So this is great. Can you tell me the basic difference between level 1 and level 2? I assume level 3 is not for this year, and it's for some future commission to talk about. But the basics between level 1 and level 2, and what you folks would recommend, and then 2, if we, assuming we vote tonight, we recommend, and you guys are in agreement with us, what's the next step? So I guess those 2 questions.
So I think for me, the biggest thing, and Angela, have you jump in on this one too, is a lot of the water features and the moving of the tarps. So cleaning off the tarps are one thing, but taking them off and then moving them and drying them and folding them and then storing them. That was one of the big, there's that, definitely a hassle, but they also weigh 80 bajillion, and I'm using round numbers there, pounds. But so that was one of the things. The other thing was the water features for our spray features, the mushroom, and some of the things like that. The other thing was in the pump room, some of the cleaning of the filters. Is that the right term, Angela? Or the cleaning of the glass inside the filters. You basically have to take off a major part of the pipe to clean it and put it back on. And we felt like
the sheets in the
yes.
filtration system.
And because that's a watertight operation, we felt like it was smarter to have the Weston and Sampson do that. So those are the real big ones as we move some of those safety items into level 1.
So those were moved from level 2 to level 1.
Some of them were in 2 and some of them are in 3.
Okay.
And what I can do is I have a highlighted version. If you want me to email it to you of the stuff that we acknowledged.
So that would be great. For my purpose, I don't have to crawl through those different items. If other commissioners want to, I'm fine with that. I'm more interested in the difference, what the jump is to level 2. Like, what do we get, and why would we do level 2 versus level 1? And again, what do you folks recommend?
I think this year, honestly, we can really do level 1. I think there's enough in level 1 for this year, for this process, to do level 1 as an opening. I think if we choose level 1, we have to take a very clear, distinct look at our closing bid that we have to go through next, and what should be in our closing options for our closing every year, and what should be on our opening. But because this summer is going to be like scrunched together, I think we can do a level 1 and make sure that, and a lot of the cleaning and stuff should be in the closing versus the opening. But I think if we have a stronger look at the closing, we can do level 1 this year. Angela, what are your thoughts on that?
I think we just need to be really careful of what we do, just because we've put so much money into the pool, that I just want to make sure that we're taking good care of it, so we're not having to dump a boatload of money into it next year and the following years.
Stacy, when you're saying level 1, are you saying level 1 as what is in our packet, or are you saying level 1 with those items that you and the staff have shifted or are recommending to be shifted? I'm not clear on what you're calling level 1.
The level 1 that is listed in your packet. So that is the updated version with all of our concerns addressed. What I'm going to email you, for those of you that want to look through it later, is the things we highlighted to move, so you can actually visually see the differences.
Does it make a difference? I'm sure it does, but what is the difference between what we need to do for this facility, regardless of opening, and then what we would need to do if we open? Do we need to do something beyond level 1 if we end up being able to open to the public?
Good question.
That's a good question. If money were not an option and we were having a true pool season this year, I would absolutely recommend level 2. Without knowing what our true pool season looks like, or how long it might last, or if we open, the fiscal side of me thinks level 1 is appropriate. That being said, I personally have not run this pool in person, but I do think there's enough in here that we can do level 1. And I want to be cautious and safe about this investment that we have. I do think we still need to be conservative because of the membership situation and just the revenue in general.
Questions for anybody?
Well, I just still wonder how we're going to get, I mean, we had always said when we scoped, one thing I do remember, ironically, is the handling of the tarps was one of the things that we always said we would outsource, right? The handling and the tarps and the storage of the tarps and all of that was always planned to be outsourced, at least to my recollection of past discussions. And then Angela, to your point, or Stacy, to your point on the water tight area on the pieces that we need to get addressed. I just worry that if we don't do those things, it's almost like, could we get them to do those things for some middle of the ground price in between the two options? Right, that, not to have them go back and requote it, but could we get them to either fold in those additional items into the level 1? Or could we find a middle ground between level 1 and level 2 and get those things that additional things that the staff has called out as required?
So Matt, that's what they've already done for us. It's just not highlighted in the copy that we have.
Okay.
If you check your email, I did email the highlighted version of, that was the original bid that we highlighted and moved. So the bid you're looking at is sort of the cleaned up version and the updated. So it has the cleaning out the glass and the watertight things in the new version at the level 1, right, Ange?
Yeah.
Okay.
So our biggest concern have been addressed.
Which is good.
No, that's great. You had raised those other issues before, so I just wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, some of the stuff that's not included are like, the cleaning of the rails, and the stainless steel that's been left out all winter. They're pretty not in great shape. So we have to, it's a lot of manpower to clean those. So that's something that we got to look at. And hoping that we can get down to the pool sooner than later, just so we can touch base on those things and hopefully get the stuff that we need to start cleaning and start to bring the stuff back to where we need it to be at. The lap pool is definitely not in the greatest condition because of how it was left before it was covered. So we're definitely going to have to use a lot of manpower to take care of some of the stuff that potentially could have been, at the level 2. So there's just a lot of work and a lot of manpower that's going to need to be put into place. Whether or not we're going to be able to hire the extra staff that we're going to need to be able to do that, it's still on hold. So those are just some things that we're really looking at.
Right, and that is the kind of thing where when we look at our closing bid, we can discuss how these metal railings are taken out, where they're stored. So it cuts back on the amount of exposure to the elements that they have. If we can store them correctly, then the manpower to clean them next season will be much less.
Well, that's the thing. We didn't have them where they were last year. They weren't stored outside because everything was taken care of. And this is where I'm stepping in to say, as much as we want DPW to help us, they've really put their foot down and they really said, we don't want to do this stuff. This is not in our forte. And this is where we were left. And this is the exact reason of why we need somebody to take care of this stuff, so we're not in this predicament for the following years.
Yeah, I think we discussed, Angela, before, the idea of maybe getting a maintenance person to somehow, right, in the future, as a future ask, because I think, if we have this kind of annual cost times 2, right, closing and opening, then you come close to an FTE, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I was on a call today from an MRPA, an aquatics call, and Lexington was talking about whether or not they were going to open their pool, and they talked about their operating budget at being over $200,000, and their facility isn't as big as ours. So we need to really think about those numbers in the future.
Okay.
In the short term, if you guys have any teenage kids at home that you want to send down to scrub
I got 2.
buff some stainless steel, that could get us through this year.
There's a lot of it.
Cindy, I think you had a question, and then I got a few questions I want to see if I can get follow-ups or just snowball with.
So,
Looks like
all right, yeah, thanks, Chris. I'm concerned that for $15,000 more to go to level 2, that it would be worth the ask if we can get the town to be willing to pay that. I think it might be, I hesitate to say this, but relatively short money. And I know that money is so tight, and I'm reading the articles about the state budget and everything, but it might be relatively short money if in fact we are able to open this year. And maybe it will reduce what we have to do or spend for the closing costs a little bit. So I don't want us to be too short-sighted. I appreciate your comments about, what's the right thing to do in this time and place. But I don't want to sell us short, because we have done that historically in this department over the years, right? We have not asked for what we really needed to ask for to run the department in every phase. And particularly it's obvious now with our pool. And I'm just concerned that we don't ask for enough. And so perhaps level 2, if it gets us some additional, looks like tarp storage and a couple of other things that I've circled here that I don't really understand, but I'm sure you guys do. I'm just concerned that maybe we should be pushing for level 2. And while I'm asking that, at the end of this list, there's something called VFDs. What are VFDs? Do you know what those are? I'm sure you do.
Kristen? I can see you chomping over there. Kristen?
They are variable
You stumped
something
her.
flow thermometers or something like that. It's pool specific. It's a part. It's a part.
Long
that-
story short, it basically alerts you if things are going very wrong.
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
the first
Okay.
one is
Safety
definitely
mechanism.
variable.
Yes. If it varies too far off the mark, it contacts us and lets us know.
Okay. So those look like they could be pretty important, and those are in under level 2, right? Whether that means they get serviced or implemented or whatever, and they're not in level 1. Anyway, so that's my thought. I don't want to be what's the phrase? Penny wise and pound foolish, whatever that is.
Mhm.
So,
Something.
And
Okay.
at what
Pretty good.
point will we know the closing costs, or would we at least have an estimate? Because Cindy, as you brought up, would it offset doing level 2 if the cost for closing would be less and we're sort of net neutral? When
So,
will we have a sense of what those numbers would be?
Stole my question.
all right, let me start at the very beginning.
Oh,
It's a very good place to start.
Kristen, I'm gonna have you jump out on this, but so in conversations with Dave, we can fund a level 1.
okay.
Level 2, we have to wait for town meeting.
Oh,
All right. No, that gives a very
Good
good
to know.
perspective.
That is the clearest
That's exactly it.
way I can put it to
Yeah.
you. So, and depending on when this happens and how it happens and yada yada, level 1 we can fund. Level 2 has to go to town meeting,
Special town
Okay.
meeting.
special
It
town
can't.
meeting.
It can't go to May's town meeting and have to wait till October.
So if we were to even do anything for level 2,
You have to chip in the rest. Yes.
heard that many a times.
Sounds like one of my children. Yeah.
So that's the real short answer on that.
Okay.
No, that's in perspective.
VFD, I think it answered the closing costs. We won't know true closing costs until we go out to bid. Prior to that, we can come up with a more succinct budget or thought budget that we might
List.
list of things. And I believe my guess is because of our opening is going to be broken down into 3 levels. Our closing
hmm
will be broken down to at least 2.
So
The-
what we should be doing is just reversing what we do for opening, and then just tack on the stuff that we really needed for opening into closing.
So you could say we could open with 31 but close for 47.
Yeah,
Okay.
depending on how much we need
Maybe.
to do. It could be less,
The town, well, except, okay, for the, yes,
if that goes into
In simple
50.
terms.
yes.
Okay.
If everything's equal.
And typically, in the pool world, the opening is always more than the closing. It's not an equal, they're both time drains. They do take a lot of time and you have to winterize, but typically they are slightly less than an opening.
Okay.
In the kitchen. I'm so sorry.
Stacy, don't worry about it. You would not
Yeah.
believe what we've encountered over the last 3 months.
Oh,
Believe
yeah.
me.
Really? Okay, no worries, buddy. Yeah, I need some.
All right. So if you don't mind, so the questions I have, Cindy, Michelle, those were exact the questions I was going to ask of if we short ourselves in the beginning, will we then tack that on at the end? And you kind of answered that. That's great information saying, listen, if we do a phase one, we don't have to go to town meeting or special
Level,
town meeting.
level. Don't use face.
So, I mean,
Yes.
excuse me,
Level 1, don't use
Level.
face.
sorry, level one.
Thank you.
So that's good information to have. And I know I'm going to ask you to look into your crystal ball on this one, but if you were to kind of put a number around going through each year, would we average more around 31 per year? Or would we be maybe halfway between the 31 and the 47 going through year after year after year? Because we know we're going to add on certain things that have like, oh, hey, it's 3 years later, we're going to add this to it because that was in our plan. But would you say that it would be a safe number to say we're going to float between 31 to 47 each year?
So my hope is when we go to open and bid next year, that we can lay out a more diligent plan so that we can get years 1, 2, and 3. It's a big thing that you do in bidding. That way you lock in pricing.
Okay.
A thing to consider is prevailing wage. If we have to pay prevailing wage tends to go up or down. It's generally up.
When does it go
Um,
down?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. I mean, minimum wage is going up, so I can only imagine it's still going to go up. But things like that. But we can, especially if we lay it out at a 1, 2, 3 year situation, we can lay out year 1 is going to look like this, year 2 is going to look like this, year 3 is going to look like
Okay.
this,
So good.
and we can at that time identify which level we're anticipating.
Yeah.
You can generally have add-ons and stuff like that onto a bid of that scope. But this was our first time, so I really wanted to keep it to a singular
No, that's fine. No.
year to really figure out what the cost was for us so that we can have some sort of concrete number.
Okay.
Same thing with closing. Last year, we picked the certain things that we needed them to do, like specifically do, and then we kind of in-housed the rest. This would give us an idea of exactly how much it would be for like a full close.
Okay. All right. And just to confirm, I want to make sure I heard this right, that if we do a level 1, we could open to maintain the pool, is the words I want to use. But if need be, we could also open to the public under level 1 if we go down that road, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
It'd just be more work for the staff.
Sure.
in level
Okay.
one.
No, but I
Definitely.
just wasn't sure, like I said, as Cindy put it, like if we do level 1, can we not open, or is it just kind of a maintenance thing that we're doing?
It's
Okay.
certainly
No.
doable. There will be more man hours and
Sure.
more staff
Okay.
hours involved, but it
Okay.
is doable.
Got it. Another question just to ask, and I know this is when we're talking about bids, in regards to the chemical bids, I know those were separate. Are we good to go on those? Have we submitted? Because I think there was only one, there were 2 companies, if correct me. Are we good to go on that? So if we decide to go through with phase 1, sorry, that one, level 1, the chemical bid is still good. Like we haven't held that up. That one's still good. So we're not gonna have to be waiting that when we do proceed, we won't have to wait on that.
Yeah, we'll just need to make sure that we order the chemicals in advance to make
Okay.
sure that they're here for when they open the pool, because last year was not so pretty with them having to take chemicals from other facilities to open our pool.
Yeah, so
Is the bid executed?
it will be. I haven't gotten confirmation of it being fully executed, but I know that Dave and Tatiana were working on it.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, once we execute this one, we can reach out to the chemical company, order the chemicals that we need delivered, and have them here before Weston and Sampson needs them.
Okay. So I guess, are there any other questions by the commission that we want to kind of go over? Because I'm looking at this as we need to vote on this tonight because it is an action item, because I would say we need to get back to Weston and Sampson ASAP on what level we're doing.
Yeah, pools are starting to open.
That's exactly after the
We
news that
wanna
came
get
out.
them.
So Are there any other questions by the commission or the staff that they would like to interject? And if not, let's start bringing this to a vote.
I have a question, but it might be covered in the next part, is in terms of what's next. So we said that it was funded, but what does that mean? I assume that that means going to finance committee to get approval for that. No, we don't need to do
I
anything
think
more.
it's in our budget. I think we have this left in our budget. Is that
We have a
correct?
little bit of a kitty.
Yes.
I think
We
is
will
what it
have
said.
to, we'll have to execute the bid in the
In order
official
to-
capacity that we need to do that. But yes, we can then start moving forward on it. We don't have to wait for anything once
Okay,
the bid
'cause
is
this was-
executed.
This was clearly significantly higher than what we were anticipating the opening cost to be. So I didn't understand what it would take in order to retrieve
Okay.
that.
No.
I think also moving forward, Chris, I know that you asked for a number. When you think about all the things that we typically would need in the opening, that 46,000 is probably right around where we're gonna need more, and we're probably looking at approximately 50 grand to open every year.
Okay, well, that's one, we're gonna have to put it in the budget.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't done prior, and it's something that it's a big learning curve that we're going through here, but now we're kind of getting it down of what we need to do, and that if that's what we need to budget, then that's what we need to budget.
We just don't want to shortchange ourselves ever
Mhm.
again.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Make the mistake once, don't make it again.
Yeah.
Because, yeah,
So-
and now we have the numbers to
Good.
a point.
All right. I
So
do
would
have to
like a
say,
motion?
yeah, make a motion, Cindy, please.
I would make a motion that we recommend that we go forward with the level 2 in the bid from Weston and Sampson for the school opening. No, is that
Level 1.
level 1?
Level 2, we're have to go to special town meeting.
Level 1, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Can you substitute level 1 in there, Kristen?
It's recorded, no worries.
Yeah.
Level 1.
All right, we have
Second.
a motion. We have a
Second.
second by Commissioner Toole. And any further comment or questions? All right, hearing none, we'll bring it to a vote.
You have to
I'll go
roll call it.
through- Yep, I'll roll call it through. Commissioner Chaston,
Aye.
Commissioner Geddes,
Aye.
Commissioner Toolin.
Aye.
The chair is also an aye, so we have a unanimous vote to approve level 1 for the Rosemary Recreation Complex opening.
Thank you.
And I do have to say, great job by all three of you on the staff, and I know including Devin. This was a tight time frame that we had to go through, and I know it was something that we were looking through. It's good that we actually have physical numbers and numbers that we can play with, so I commend you for the time to put it together, to kind of dissect what we need, what we don't need. So I thank you all for putting this through together on the time frame that we needed.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
So,
I have to let my dog out. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Okay.
Perfect then. All right. So,
You have a question from
Sure.
one of our attendees. I can read it off to you guys, and then we can either answer it, or we can, if you want to have this person talk, I can allow that to happen. So Kirsten Allen is the co-owner of Blue Lotus Healing Arts in downtown Needham. They are restricted from offering their yoga classes indoors. Baker has encouraged outdoor classes, and she is wondering if it's possible to utilize Green's field or any other field with appropriate social distancing for our yoga classes. She writes, I understand reopening is a process and would appreciate any guidance. Thank you. Matt.
Mr. Chair, if I may, or do you want to
please
take it?
Nope. Please speak freely.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things here. I know that we have traditionally not allowed private businesses to run their business on our fields. There's a liability issue to the town. There is, we don't have a process in which to do it. We only allow nonprofits and not-for-profits to utilize our fields in an organized capacity. So that's our current policy and how it operates. And there's very many good reasons for that. I guess what I would ask, and Stacy, maybe you have some visibility into this. I'm hearing rumblings about towns all over who are doing different things to help support local businesses, right? So opening parking lots to allow restaurants to serve food, you know, maybe closing downtown streets like they are proposing down in Boston. They're going to close some of the streets in the North End so the restaurants can open up on the streets. I'm not aware of anything that the town is doing with that regard yet. But I think if the town is looking at doing some of those things, I would think that they are looking at and addressing some of the liability issues that may be in play. And then therefore we may want to revisit our stance on not letting businesses go, because we're not in standard times. But right now we don't have a process, we don't have a mechanism, we don't have a means to do it, we don't have the liability waivers to do it. Our policy is pretty clear. But given what other towns are doing, I just don't know if there's anything that the town is doing or there's any way that we should be taking a different or second look at this.
So I have a twofold answer to that question. I think I spoke with the Board of Health today, Tim and Tiffany, and we are all in agreement that phase 1 opening of fields and parks is for passive recreation, non-organized events of any kind for phase 1. I agree that as we get into phase 2 or, you know, the next phases of some smaller groupings, I think it would be great for the Needham community to consider not just nonprofits, because I think we're all being affected by this virus. So I think moving forward, certainly, but the public health department in Needham does view it, and so does our staff, as passive recreation, nothing organized of any kind right now.
No, that makes sense. And the other thing that I also remember, because we do have some, I'll call them rogue organizations that have used the fields for workouts. They tend to actually wear down the fields and create dead spots in the fields, which create safety issues for the actual active participants. So if we were to do this, we would also have to come up with guidelines on how to do it, because, you know, some of the, you know, yoga would be an example, right? If you're in the same mat and everybody's in the same location for extended periods of time, you'll create dead spots in the field, right? Much like some of these other workouts. So there's some things to think about, but I think that's a great point on the passive versus organized recreation.
All valid points. Great job.
So that sort of brings us to fields as our discussion item.
So yeah, so I knew that we were meeting, and I mean, again, this all is going on the, you know, message that was kind of sent out yesterday by Governor Baker. I think we were kind of expecting to hear one thing. I looked at yesterday's meeting or news conference as very positive, that there are definitely some things that are out on the horizon. Are there definitely some obstacles that are going to be in the way? Yes, there are, but it was a very positive outlook, I think, that we're looking at. So with hearing that, and I know if we go back a week ago Monday, that we had talked about originally opening up fields. We had met as a chairs meeting earlier in the morning of that past Monday. We then had a Park and Rec meeting that night. We had Ed Olson from the Park and Forestry Department. We also had Tim from the Board of Health. So it was great to have an open dialogue to see what's going on. And I think it was good that we went through that practice. And now with the kind of phases that are talking of coming out, I think we're on the cusp of something good happening coming along. Starting next week, if I'm reading this right, that some fields could be open along with some courts. But again, it goes on the line of us talking about it's more for the open public. It's not for organized sports. It's not for organizations to start having things. It's a public thing to get people out of doing this. That I think it's something that we need to be ready to hit the ground running. I know it's going to be some work to get the communication out of how we're going to do this. I know with speaking with Ed Olson is we also want to do this in phases. We're not going to open up every single park right away, because I think it mentioned he's more concerned about the things that he doesn't know than he does know. there was one issue with one of the sprinkler systems had to turn on, and they turned it on and they had leaks. I mean, these are things that you're going to run into every single time, that you don't want to do everything at once because you're going to cause more havoc than you're going to cause, goodness. So I think with the message that came out on Monday, I think it's something that we need to definitely look at. I know next Monday is Memorial Day. Let's start looking at how we can start getting our phases, the town of Needham, into opening some of these and following the guidelines that are set up by the, by the governor and by the state. So, I mean, looking at it, like, I know I was going to send out an email on Monday, but I kind of wanted to hear what Governor Baker said. That I did meet with Ed on Friday of last week, that we definitely talked about the phases of what we could do. If we were to kind of put a numbers to it, that if we were to say phase one would be the tennis courts and Memorial Field. Now that would include both the turf field and the grass field. With speaking with Ed, he's like, that's ready to go. There's no damage. That would be pretty good, left to go. We would start that way. We would then communicate through the field status notifications that we have sent out of what fields are open and what fields are closed. And we would definitely need to have the communication out there that people would need to adhere to. If a field is closed, that means it's closed. We'd also have to kind of hold people their feet to the fire of, if you start having organized practices or organized things, we're going to come down hard on you. If you abuse the privilege, you're going to lose the privilege for everybody. So I think with the phases that we were talking about is that phase one would be Memorial and the tennis courts. And then by, say, the end of that following week, you start opening more fields. That, again, you do it slowly and steadily, and you have some consistency. And you're also, and Stacey, you brought up the great point of, you don't want one clump of fields in one area. You want to spread it out throughout the town, so not one field is getting hammered at the same time. So you want to spread the wealth, if you want to put it that way. I'd love to get some of the thoughts of the commissioners and the staff, and hear what you have to say. I think, Angela, you sent out a great email of, hey, listen, here's an idea. You bounce some ideas back on it that I didn't have an idea on. So I appreciate the open dialogue that we can have. And that's what makes us a team, is saying, all right, listen, I think this is it. That's why I bounce it off to everybody. So I want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's why I want to have a very, healthy, open discussion of where do we think the Park and Rec Commission should go in regards to fields and parks that should open.
Thanks, Chris.
So take it away, anybody.
So in my conversation with, public health earlier today, definitely it will be not until next week, certainly.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
They feel pretty strongly about it happening closer to Tuesday or Wednesday as opposed to Monday, being it the holiday, and that,
Sure.
People are going to come out. I think one of the things we have to deal with is people are already doing a lot of things out there.
That is true.
And so what we're doing is putting out our guidance and hoping that people adhere to it. We have to understand that regardless of what we put out there, it is next to impossible for us to truly police it. So we have to do the best we can, have all hands on deck and work with other departments. But I think a slow opening is ideal. I think there are certain fields that are going to be ready. I think, like you said, Eddie's running into some just irrigation stuff that these guys run into all the time, every opening. It's just typically in March. But because of COVID, we weren't out there doing those things quite yet for the safety of our staff. So now we're playing catch up. We have random storms that they get pulled away for certain things. So if we can slowly open these in a certain order, and spread the wealth, yes, not just for making sure the fields aren't totally impacted, but also to make sure that we get to different parts of the town and make sure that we have equitable access to these fields. So I think a slow rollout would be great. And I think we can definitely pull in Eddie for that list. I know Kristen has worked with him, talked to him about it. So I think we can work on something like that. But, we just have to keep in mind that our maintenance staff, our park and maintenance staff is still not at full throttle. Typically they're right now, they're typically up around, I want to say 40 summer staff. They're only at 8 guys a day right now because of the split shift, and we don't have part-time staff. So
Right.
these guys are crushing it and they're killing themselves right now. And the minute we put more people out there, you know, the harder it's going to get. There's going to be more trash. If nothing else, there's going to be more trash.
Right.
We think that they will be back up to full-time staff, not part-time staff, by June 1st. So that's still a week after the opening. So the slow rollout, I think, is best to preserve the DPW guys, because they're killing it. They're doing a great job, but you know, there's only 8 of them, and
Right.
there's only so much they can do.
I will send out a list of, you know, the phases that we were talking about, and just looking at it right now, if it's not a 3-week, it's a 4-week period until every single field is open. Now, I think also one of the things is that we concentrated on schools as one of the last phases. So you want to kind of take more of your common grounds, if you want to use that, and open those up, and then kind of wait for the schools till the end. So I will send that list to everybody tonight, just so you're familiar with what the recommendations are.
I think we
And-
also need to make sure that we're giving a simple, clear, and concise message to everybody. You know, maintain your social distancing, wear your mask, carry in, carry out any trash that goes in, comes out.
Yep.
And you know, if they can't abide by those rules, then we close again. It's really up to our community to take care of their assets at this point, because we just don't have the manpower to take care of our assets as we would like to. Just because of the situation that we're in. You know, everybody says that we're in it together. Well, that's part of the motto, you know, we're in this together. If you want these fields to stay open, you keep them clean and you help us keep these fields open. You know, the more pressure we put on the community to help us, I think we're better off.
I have a question, Chris. I have a couple of comments. One is,
Sure.
I'm assuming restrooms will not be open.
That is
Is that-
correct.
Okay,
Correct.
perfect. I would think we need some good signage, if you can get some good signage for the fields that we open. And then I'm thinking we really need to talk to the Memorial Park trustees. And Chris, you may have I think you've had some conversations already, but if you're talking about opening Memorial, it's easy to think of it as ours, but it isn't ours, right? It's under their jurisdiction. And they're as prickly about that as we are about our fields when someone tries to open one of our fields without talking to us. So they may not even be as prickly as we are. But I know that we would need that communication, and maybe you have had that, or Stacy, you've had it, I don't know.
On the last communication, I actually reached out to Jim Healy, who is, I think, the vice chair of the Memorial Park trustees, that he took a poll of all the Memorial Park trustees, and they are in a majority of opening Memorial Park. They are agreement that a soft opening is probably the best way to do it. One of their concerns, and we've talked about it, is trash. That, I mean, even when we're open up for regular business, that place gets trashed. That if you're not putting trash cans or something out there, it's going to get worse. So it's one of the things, and Kristen, you said it, we don't want to abuse, and I think you also said, Angela, if we're going to put these things out there, we don't want to be trashed. So there's got to be something that we've got to work with the RTS of, just give us something. If it's those new solar power ones that are out there, give us something that's out there. You can't not have trash barrels at some of these fields. I'm not saying they can't be at every one of them, but the bigger ones, we've got to do something. We can encourage the whole carry in, carry out, but that's only a start. People are still gonna just ignore the rule because some people just don't get it, and it's a shame, but you have to give them some facility to throw away their trash.
Well, and to that end, Ed's team's not the only team at 1/3 staff. So is RTS. So are other aspects of the DPW. So we can put out the trash cans, but to put out trash cans and not have the guys to empty them just creates more havoc. So we have to also coordinate with the RTS side of the DPW department, so that we know, because those big belly things are great, but once they're jammed, it takes a specific kind of truck to get out there and empty. Like it,
Right.
You know, we have to really coordinate which trash barrels we're putting where, and can our guys get to them on a regular basis? Because if they start to overflow, that's more problems that we're gonna get, and a lot more emails.
Well, I think that also, but that bodes the reason to use the big bellies that are sitting there. They're software driven, right? They're supposed to tell us when they're full. So we don't have
Exactly.
to go check them They tell us when they break. They tell us when they're full. That's why we invested in them. So
Right.
I
But we
think
still have to have guys to go out there, get
I
them.
no, Stacy, I get that. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is
The-
one of the whole things behind them versus the big white and blue oil barrels that we leave laying around with no lids
Mhm.
is that they are there to address that issue.
Yeah.
I understand that they're staffed. And I do agree. I agree that everybody, this staff, the entire town town government is operating under reduction, right? I don't believe that many people think about that in their day-to-day life. I don't think they realize when they see Rick Merson at the dump on Saturday that he's the head of DPW and would never be there on a Saturday if it was any other time of year, right? I don't know if the general public recognizes what we are asking, what the town is delivering with the reductions that are in place. So I think it would be a little bit hard for us to communicate that as well, unless it came from the communications department of the town and just say, but I don't think the town wants to advertise that, we're delivering less than expected service to the community, which they're not. So it is a delicate balance on how we would communicate the fact that we have to do a slow roll, right? I don't think many folks in town are going to necessarily get that.
Can we do some sort of campaign to keep our parks clean and
Well,
really push that and advertise that?
And again, I will not take credit for this idea. We have the technology right now. We have to go out on Instagram and Facebook and things like that. Is it possible to do a video with, say, a Park and Rec commissioner, Ed Olson from Park and Forestry, and maybe someone from the RTS to actually do an informative video of saying, hey, listen, folks, this is what we're doing, but we need your help to do it. Because, I think people are getting sick of reading things over and over, and if you get an email, they're just going to click it off. But if you have somewhat of a video of just to do something to get people that are actually affected out there, that, and it's just to get the message out there. I'm not saying everyone's going to watch it, but it's something different. That's, oh, here comes another email in regards to this.
Maybe
it's the 10th one I got today.
Our high school captains too, the
Great.
ones that are using Memorial Field, the ones that are using DeFazio Field, the ones that, the people that are using the fields, can we, recruit them to do these, do this campaign for us?
PSAs. Yep.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Do something to get it out there. Give something that's a little bit different than send another email or post another thing on social media.
Yeah, because there's easy ways to record. You could record a Zoom, right? So you could get, one of us, Ed and Rick, on a Zoom call, and put the Zoom app on your phone, and you could even do it outside, so we're not looking like this, right? But at least you're.
Oh, you don't want Kellogg's in the background?
Yeah.
No, I think it's a great idea. And in the minutes, Kristen, can you make sure that you put down that Chris and Matt volunteered for this video thing?
Sure.
To take care of that.
Sign me up.
And
I do it all day long.
With
We can
DPW and
show the social distancing of Matt running a mile around the track and then playing cornhole and losing to me. That'd be great.
Yeah, you notice how I'm running the mile, but
I was
he's
like, you have
not
to run
because
the
he
mile
won't make
first. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
Is
I gotta hold the camera. That's why.
Don't forget, you have to have your face mask on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't. Not if I'm 6 feet apart.
Can our public
Pass
information,
out.
our public information officer, is this something she would help us with, that she could spearhead?
Yeah,
We
she'll
are-
be all over that. Yep,
Yeah.
definitely.
Meet-
So
the
we can
Needham
reach out
channel
to
too.
Cindy. Yep.
Let's
Yeah,
get the Needham channel on it.
absolutely.
Right.
So it's just something. It's something that's different.
You
You know
really
what?
want to
And it
run a
gets the point
mile in front of
across.
a lot of people, huh, Chris?
Oh,
Believe me, after about the first 100 yards, we'd be socially distant enough.
exactly.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, if we're going to ask anyone on this mission to run a mile, I would suggest we all look to Michelle, because she is the one.
Yeah, Michelle.
I-
Right.
Michelle is the one we want to showcase. She's
She
the
can run
run.
it backwards. And
Yeah.
still beat
Glad
us.
You mentioned it, Cindy, because it's definitely the right way to go.
Oh,
Yeah.
It
Exactly.
would not be pretty. It would not be pretty.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I think we're going for more pretty, like we're going for best.
so, but
It's
no,
all relative at this point.
no, I think these are great ideas, and like I said, it's something different and it's something to get it out there. I think the timeline that we're looking at, you're right. Memorial Day is Monday. Let's target Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day. I'll send that list out to you as soon as the meeting gets over, and if anybody has any comments, please let me know. But I think this is something that we need to do. I think the public deserves it, and I think if we do it right and communicate it, is it going to be perfect? No, but will it be better than just sending out an email? Yes.
I think maybe,
Urge you to make sure you include whether it's Jim Healy
Oh, yeah.
or
Nope.
Lello or whoever.
I'll
Make sure that they're part
over-communicate.
of.
I want to put out there that perhaps we should wait for Wednesday as a target because we have a meeting next Tuesday. So we
Sure.
have some time to look at the lists, think about how we feel about them. You guys have time to make your video. We can vote
So
on it.
I got to push on that a little bit, Stacy. Look, the governor's come out and said open. We had Ed in last week and he gave us a list the very next day. We've got to do something. Otherwise, I understand all the concerns and I understand all the pressures, but we've got to do something. Waiting to Wednesday, I was going to push for Friday. And I know that there's rules and things like that, but people are going to go out, as you said. It's a long weekend.
Mhm.
People will go out this weekend. They're going to disregard the signs. They're going to knock them over.
They're already
right?
out, Matt.
I
they're
know,
already out there. We're
Stacy.
already kicking people out.
What I'm saying is, if we come out with a formal policy on Wednesday, it just seems like we've missed.
It's like we're 2 days late.
It-
Everyone
it-
else is opening up on Monday.
I understand the pressure. I understand what you guys are going through, but this should be the easiest thing we do. I know there's logistics. I know there's things that need to get done, but this should be the easiest thing to do. And if we need the public information off, we don't have to do Chris's videos at this time, but we just say, hey, we are here to open our parks. We're going to take a phased approach. This is what we'll do. Here's where to learn more. And we just populate into that and we keep feeding it over time. We've got to be able to respond.
Well, the governor did respond. He said May 25th was the earliest. So that's the governor's ruling is May 25th.
But
Before Monday is against the state guidance.
I'm agreeing with that, Kristen, but what I'm saying is we need to be able to say, what is our plan? If we don't open till the 25th, that's great. But if we come out Wednesday and say, okay, here's our plan, you guys are going to get inundated with questions all week on what's our plan for opening the fields and opening our parks. I know I'm getting them.
But if we agree now, then we can answer those questions by saying we will put out a formalized report on Wednesday and we will be open on Wednesday.
Because
I'm not saying like you guys can decide to do it any day. I'm just saying like it's 24 hours. We have some time. We can vote on exactly which fields we're going to open when, what the slow rollout's going to look like. It gives Ed that much more time because he's going to have to deal with whatever happens over the weekend with people out there on Tuesday. So he's going to be in repair mode potentially or trash pickup mode or whatever mode he's going to do. Does it give him enough time? I'm not saying it does or doesn't, but if
Stacey, I guess let me, sorry to push. What does it harm to say we're going to open Memorial on Tuesday and we will have and to your point, I'm fine with saying we're going to open Memorial on Tuesday and we'll have a phased rollout and those phases and that timing will be published on Wednesday. I'm all good with that. That's at least saying we're doing something. That's all I'm saying is we got to show incremental steps, baby steps here. People are itching for it. They're itching for it. I know they're already doing it and we're not enforcing it. And I think passive or lack of enforcement is probably our best bet too. But I just feel that we need to show that we're on top of it.
I think the sooner we can be setting expectations for what that would mean, the better as well, right? Like a simple outline of, yes, we will be opening on Tuesday. These are the 5 points that need to happen, or we're going to have to close them back down again, right? Like you're going to have to bring out whatever you bring in. You're going to have to wear masks, all of those pieces where people can at least feel prepared too. So they're not, oh, I missed the email on Wednesday. I didn't know I had to bring my own trash bag, you know? So the sooner we can get those messages out as well, I think the better.
Yeah, and I think the big idea is that we'll get some messaging out. It just won't have the exact guidelines of everything that is going to happen and the regulations, because those are bigger conversations for you all too. That's not just, it's not something that just can be thrown out.
Yeah, I mean, I also feel that we covered a lot of it, but I think it takes time to craft a message, Kristen. I completely agree, particularly coming from a marketing guy who just spent weeks trying to craft a really silly message. But I think if we can say, look, we are going to be opening with passive recreation. It's going to be carry in, carry out, no organized sports. We don't have to talk about, you know, don't violate it and you'll break it. We can do that in another means, and then we will publish a calendar and a schedule for how we propose things to open later in the week, but we know this park is going to be opening. Watch this space for more guidelines. I think that's all I'm asking for.
I agree. Then what do you think?
Matt, what I'm hearing is that you're just asking for a simplistic message to be put out there. Carry in, carry out, masks, 6 social distancing, and just that's it pretty much, you know?
That
And-
Memorial Park is open and that we have a phased approach for opening the rest of our parks that we will publish. If that's Wednesday, whatever day, it should be published Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, that the town can then see what is our plan. And and then we can even use, you know, if it takes a little longer, we can then on Wednesday say, hey, we'll use the Notify Me app that we have for field, when the field closures, you can sign up for that to know what fields are open on any given week, right? That it just, because the Notify Me thing works great for sports groups. Why not have everybody in town who wants to know what fields are open, just get it. And then every day they get a text that says, these fields are open. Or
throughout each phase, it would be the same message. So it's not like we're changing the message every day. It's, here's our phase 1 message. It's literally just copy, paste, send it every single day until you get into the next phase. And then you change the message. You're sending that same message again with what fields are open. I mean, Kristen, is that, I mean, I don't want to say is that as easy as it is. I mean, I know you usually do a daily one of like what's open and what's closed, but if you have one message that's consistent throughout the week, that's not a big ask, is it?
So yeah, that's fine. We'd have to talk to Eddie about what information he can provide to us and how often he can provide that information to us, because there are times that come up that one field might have to close out of schedule or what have you. So,
Yep.
Yeah, you froze, Kristen. I don't know if you can hear us.
Rose.
You're frozen again.
I know. Let's all freeze. Oh, I know. She's got a good point.
She's
I know.
Stinker.
She was having such a good point.
I know. Or
I
she's
think where she was
probably
going with that is when,
and if we can,
you know, when talking to
Oh,
Eddie,
We
froze-
missed all of that, Kristen, because
Yeah, you froze the whole
Sorry.
message.
It sounded like a great point.
You were going with your communication. That's where we lost you.
And the hand was up.
And the park's opening and how to get that out.
Yeah, I think that if we do it daily at first, that it would at least get we'd be more consistent with our communications too. And then the people will come and look for that information from us. People are looking, a lot of people are looking for our guidance.
Okay.
So, and
And we could also update it on our COVID page too.
Good point.
These parks are open, since everybody's looking at those. And we also, there's a group of us that started this, this page called Get Connected Needham. That's on the COVID page now too. And it links right to our Parks and Rec page. So for our opening, like if a park is open, they can click on there and it just brings them right to our page. So we can and our Facebook page as well. So that's a great way that we can spread that too, because it goes to everybody that's part of the town if they want to look it up. And we can also post it on Cindy's daily messages that go out.
yeah, and these are short enough that Twitter is probably going to be a good thing too. Because a lot of our sports groups are also on Twitter, so we can tag it. And
Oh, she's got such good points.
I know, but we're only getting half. I think we're getting half of each point.
Yeah.
But I would also, just to chime in, I do think it is worth, where the elongated communications come in, is I do think we do need to communicate back to the sports groups, right? And push something out that we are opening passive recreation only. You know, Chris, I would be so bold as that their field permit for their season is at risk. I wouldn't say they close it for everybody. I would put their field permit at risk if we find their teams out there.
I would have
Right?
no-
We may not be able to do that, but to me, if there was one of the sports groups was doing an organized practice on a closed field, or during their field permit is at risk.
It is.
Love that idea. Listen, I mean, it's time to quote unquote flex the muscles. If you abuse the policy, you're gonna shoot yourself in the foot down the road.
Yeah, but
Sure,
that's
have practice now. Great. Good luck trying to get a permit later down the line.
but that's a back channel communication that's not part of our overarching public communication, right? That is just an email that we send to our sports groups and,
Mhm.
and just say, hey, this is what's going on. There'll be dire repercussions if we find that you're doing any sort of organized activities out there.
All right, I don't think we would start there. I mean, it's just
I
enough.
know, I'm kidding.
I don't even think I'd message that. It was nice to say it, and if we had to, maybe we would threaten at some point, but I don't think we need to do that right now. I mean,
I agree.
I love flexing muscles, but I don't have. I think it's great if we can get something open early, earlier rather than later. I don't want to make more problems for the staff because I've been accused of that a lot over the years, that I want to jump into something and I don't think about, the repercussions for the staff, because I don't always have to deal with the repercussions, and you folks do. So I really try to be sensitive to that. So if that is going to make life terrible for you, if we do that, then speak up now and push back against us, against Matt, I guess. But
All right.
Wow.
But if we can do this slowly, but something positive, I just think it would be great. I think everyone could do some positive news. We can't tell them anything really about, is the pool going to open? If it is, when is it going to open? When are the programs going to start? Will there be programs? Looks like summer overnight camps are, I don't know, maybe they're going to open. They're in some future phase, and I'm finding it hard to believe that the Massachusetts camps will open. But maybe the out-of-state camps will be available to people. I just think particularly young families have lots of difficult things to deal with right now. They now may be able to go back to work, but there's no childcare. I mean, life is just very topsy-turvy right now, right? And it's very difficult, in my opinion. I don't even have kids, and I'm finding life difficult. So I can't imagine having to deal with school-age children, right, as many of you do. So I would like to do something positive that isn't going to create havoc in the Park and Rec office. And if we can do it slowly with one field and tennis courts, and we can't protect people from themselves too much. I mean, that's the governor's job. That's other people's jobs. If they violate these things, then we do have to close our stuff down. But I don't think as a Park and Rec Commission or Park and Rec Department that we can say, all right, you people are gonna enter over here and you're gonna come out over here. It's a field generally. You can enter it from almost anywhere. So we can give the guidelines. And if it gets violated terribly, then we close it down. But I don't think we can micromanage it because it's just not gonna work. But that's my take.
One of my ideas has been, looking in the future and looking at our summer programs and where we're going to be and how we're going to pan out with some stuff is, one of the or recreation directors from Watertown had suggested going back to old school and placing a female and male person at every park. So not only would we have a monitor at a park, but we also would have somebody to organize social distant games and to try to, just bring some positivity to our playgrounds or to our fields and our parks. And possibly we could go down that avenue. But that's just something that, I've thought about and talked to our team about. If our programs don't open, I think this would be a positive thing to look towards doing. And kind of going old school and just placing people at certain fields just to make things work.
So, all right, we could talk about this all night. I would like to I know this is a discussion item, but I'd like to have a general consensus. In the recommendation that I would make is Memorial Park is not under our jurisdiction. The Memorial Park trustees said that they are comfortable, and along with Ed Olson, to open the fields as of Monday. I would like to get a communication out to say that that park is open and the tennis courts. He is there. There's not a lot of maintenance. I know that I think Eddie's crew blew all the, crud off the courts this week. So in regards to having 2 parcels of land open, we're just asking for Monday for our tennis courts and another parcel of land that's not under our jurisdiction to be open on Monday. I think that's perfectly fine to get out. We can then send a good communication out on Wednesday of next week, explaining to the public of what our phases are and what we're trying to do and communicate that message out. But I feel that we should have Memorial and the tennis courts open for Monday the 25th.
So it's Tuesday, the 20th?
No, Monday the 25th, Memorial Day.
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day.
But we all said it. People are out there anyways. Even if we open them up on Tuesday, they're going to be there on Monday and Sunday and Saturday. If we just make it official and say tennis courts in Memorial Park is open to the public as of Monday the 25th, and then we send out another communication on the 27th, detailing our phases of how we're going to do it. I say if we get that out, it's a start. It gives the public something. We got to give them something.
I could either way. I could either go Monday or Tuesday, and I would leave it up to the staff. I would make sure any communication that comes out, not to beat a dead horse, but anything that comes out regarding Memorial Park should come at a minimum from the 2 of us, from somehow include them in the communication. Sure. Have it just come from Park and Rec, or they will be they won't like it, and I wouldn't want to do that.
No, we would definitely include them in it, but they've already said, listen, soft opening's ready to go. It's the minimal of things that we can do. It's the tennis courts and the field. Let's start with that.
I agree, Chris. And I agree with Cindy that it should be a joint announcement, or heck, give them the means of taking credit for it. I don't care. Let's just get it out there.
Right.
Okay. No, good. So, all right. Anything else?
You're gonna be so mad when you watch this video and see how many times you freeze. You're gonna hate this. I'm so sorry.
Is the staff okay with that? Do you feel this strongly about moving to Tuesday? Is that, because I really don't.
We don't work on Monday.
I'm not answering those emails. It's fine.
But I'm sure we could make do of what we need to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So, okay. So if we can do that, that would be great.
Is Kristen answering, or is she frozen?
She just texted me. Town is off on Monday.
I moved rooms. I'm trying different things. It's not a good connection night, apparently.
Okay. All right.
All
So
right.
that's where we stand on what we're going to do for Monday, and then we'll work on a message that we can communicate on Wednesday, the 27th, of what our phases are. Everyone in agreement? Thumbs
Yes.
up? Nice. Okay, the last two things, I know this, I promise you will not take up a lot of time. This was kind of a combo in regards to the hiring freeze in
Oh, no,
Rosemary
we're good.
Recreation Complex.
We're
We already
recording, aren't we?
talked about- Come on, pay attention here.
Come here.
We already kind of talked about what we're gonna do. We're gonna do level 1. In regards to if we were to open the public, and I know again, we're looking at the, oh, Stacy. go
Keep
ahead.
going. Keep going.
Oh,
You're on
okay.
a roll.
That we're talking of where we're looking at is if we do and when we do, decide to open the public, when would we need to know by? And if we do decide to go down that road, are we still under this hiring freeze that the town is under? So say that we decide, again, hypothetically, June 9th, that, you know what, boom, we're ready to go. We're into phase 2. We feel comfortable. I've just thrown out a date and we're gonna, open up the pool, decide to open the pool, not open the pool that day, but decide to open the pool June 9th. So we're ready for a July 6th opening. Are we going to fall into that hiring freeze of like, oh no, you can't really hire anybody when we've already kind of made the decision that we want to open the pool? Where do we stand with that?
That's a great question.
I think we
Put
should
it on the
look
discussion
at,
item.
bringing back our old staff first and foremost before we hire any new staff, because they've already been trained in the facility. And Devin and I would like to have in place our supervisors, because they're a great crew and we feel as though they can take the lead and work with us on what we need to do.
Have our supervisors.
Huh?
I thought we did already have kind of in place our
We do.
supervisors.
They're not hired though.
Okay. Oh, okay. Got it. Okay.
They're in
Yeah,
place.
so that's what our question is,
Yeah.
Angela. What do we need to do from the town's perspective to pull the trigger there, right? I think you have the people lined up. We
Yeah.
trust that you guys have done that interviewing, vetting and all that.
Yep.
What can we do, or what needs to get done from a town perspective to hire seasonal employees? Because, I think the town would agree, us having the pool but not being able to open because we're under a freeze would be
Right.
a black mark on the town. So I think we could play a card, but what do we need to do to help to break that log jam if there is one?
Most of the paperwork is already done. Kristen, are you there?
For the moment,
For now, hold on.
What other paperwork besides the contracts, would they have to come up with in order to be rehired again this summer, that could move things along? Because I know that we talked about it earlier today. Oh no, she's frozen again.
He's
Yeah.
frozen.
No, Kristen, not right
Kristen,
now.
can I make a suggestion that you go off video and just stay on audio, and that will reduce your bandwidth? If you heard me.
Oh, she texted me. Hold on.
There's so many great freezing moments.
It's really, she's really the master.
She's gonna be so hating this video when she
Kristen, I
watches it.
suggest
Oh, there
going
you're
off
back.
of video so that you can speak. It'll reduce your bandwidth.
I'll try that. I tried that and it didn't help.
Didn't
Here we
know.
go.
All right.
So anyway, they need a Corey, they need their tax documentation, they need a new verified emergency contact form with us, and they need a new direct deposit, meaning they need to get something from their bank or a voided check. Those
But
are-
for HR purposes, do they need anything else?
They need it, yes, they need all of that information.
Well, we'll get back to that as soon as Kristen texts Angela.
Are we in a hiring freeze now? Is the town in a hiring freeze right now?
Yes.
Yes.
So do we need some kind of special permission to hire, to extend an offer to these people? And is that something that is reasonable for us to expect from what you folks see?
That's a great question, Cindy.
That's all you've said, Stacy. You're holding back. Come on.
Yeah,
Phil.
so just tell us.
I got nothing to tell you, to be honest. So the answer is we don't have an answer yet. Supposedly we were going to get some more guidance by the end of the week, or I should say public health is going to. Supposedly, nobody hold their breath for that. But we are still on a hiring freeze. I had a conversation with Tim, Tiffany, Kate, and Dave on Monday. I told them if we are going to open we need lead time. We need a certain amount of lead time, and we have to discuss it because they had asked me if we can hire at some point part-time staff and they can work remotely. And we got into the weeds about training and stuff like that. So they are aware that we need to pull the trigger pretty quickly. I did tell them if they think, if we are going to open, we need to know and we need to make the decision sooner rather than later. We can't necessarily wait for the governor. The hiccup in this conversation is, not surprisingly, it's going to come down. I had to talk to Dave about money. We could potentially be bringing people in, training people, getting people ready. And if phase 1 becomes phase 0, or phase 1 never makes it to phase 2, then we're hiring and paying people in this very fiscally conservative time to not work.
Yeah.
So that is a conversation that I am currently having. We are going, Kristen, I've asked Kristen to run some numbers about what the real costs look like. So we have tangible numbers to discuss with Dave. We are working on that. It is not ready, but when it is ready, I'll obviously send it out to you guys so you have an idea. But
we need to work with that too, because Devin and I have the number of hours that.
And, we have to figure out, are we going to do 2 shifts? How many people, how many lifeguards do we need? What does it look like? So we need to
Stuff
crunch
that
some,
we've already talked about.
Right. We
And
need to crunch some numbers and figure out what's going on there. But yeah, I think they will be willing to pull the trigger when we need them to, or as soon as we need them to. But there's a bigger conversation because people don't realize that we're working at half staff, and people are already are wondering why we're not laying anybody off. So there's 2 thoughts out there in the public about why we're not doing enough and why we're still all working. Because a lot of other towns are furloughing their staff.
Right.
And we have not had to quite yet. So we have to be very careful, and we are going to crunch those numbers. And Angela and Devin have done a lot of this stuff, and we're going to pull together a report so that we can have some real tangible numbers for people to look at.
And
And I'm
Stacy, go ahead, Cindy.
I'm imagining along with those numbers that you need a date. So this is the deadline. If we don't get to commit to staff at this point, then we cannot open, right? And I don't know what that date is, whether that date is next week or the week after or a month. I mean, that obviously is something
I think the date is coming up soon. The other thing that we're going to start to struggle with, and I heard from Chris earlier today in our team meeting, is some of that staff is now reaching out to us saying, are you hiring? Because I need to go find a job.
Right.
And now that more restaurants and Starbucks is open and Dunkin' Donuts is open, they can go make money.
Right.
And we can't guarantee them anything. So the sooner we can get the town to push to figure out what we're going to do for the summer, the better off we're going to be when it comes to our staff. And we can reach out and we can say, yes, we still want you, but we can't actually promise them money.
Right.
But
Right.
Starbucks can.
Right.
So.
Can I ask a quick follow-up question? I apologize, I didn't ask this at the beginning of the conversation. So we approved level 1 for Weston and Sampson. We then communicate that to Dave Davidson. We need to ask of a radar of when we can get that to say them to execute the level 1 opening. Like if they say, hey, listen, phone's ringing off the hook right now. We'll see you in August. This all is moot point.
Yeah.
How quickly can we get an answer if Dave calls them tomorrow and says, hey, listen, boom, we're taking level 1, get us on the calendar. We got to know that immediately, because we're all going to plan a bunch of stuff, and if it's not worth it, it's not worth it.
Well, I will have a conversation with Dave tomorrow, and I hope you can reach out tomorrow, and hopefully we get the answer as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But it's another one of those, we're in yet again another hurry up and wait situation.
But again, at least we're getting our name in there.
Yep.
They're probably going to be taking a list of all right, listen, let's get it in. We need to get our name in.
So Stacy, Chris, Angela, Kristen, I guess my other
Cindy,
and Michelle, Brady Bunch. I guess when you're running those numbers, I think one of the things, Stacy, that you're calling out is this is the drop dead date that we won't be able to do anything, right? And I'm thinking not just the pool, I'm thinking program.
Kristen. Hi, Kristen. FaceTime.
There you go. I'm thinking
Technology at its finest.
it's not just the pool, but it's our programs as well, because I know that folks are asking those questions.
I can
And
give you a quick update on that, Matt, is that it seems that we're going to have more definitive guidelines when it comes to programs or camps of like what exactly we can do and when. That is also supposed to come out by the end of the week. It sounds to me like the ACA is being more clear and definitive about like how many people in a group, what activities they can play, those kinds of things. We won't know that until the end of the week. But my understanding is it'll be more clear than, yeah, you guys can open the pool in however many, whatever phase.
no, I get that, Stacy. I guess my point is all of those things, all of those guidelines from the health department are moot if you can't hire.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, this is one of the areas again where I think part of what you guys are putting forward has got to be the business case of, look, we bring in X amount of dollars through our summer program. This is our big season. This is like owning a restaurant on the Cape. This is our time where we drive the bulk of our revenue through our programs. And we have to show that, as much as the optics are that, other groups are furloughing and there may be groups that are, staffing it, we are more than offsetting our costs with what we're doing, particularly with our programs and with the pool. So that's where I'm asking what can we do to help push that message through so that we don't get stuck in this, yeah, that's great. And yeah, we want to open, but we'll let you know on July 4th, to your point, and then you can't hire anybody, and it means maybe we get a week of programs in August as a result. I mean,
I think in my conversations with all of upper management is that the town wants us to run things in whatever capacity is allowed. Obviously we have to take into real concern about the safety of our participants and the safety of our staff that we're putting into these things over the fiscal side of things.
agreed.
There's just two different avenues of having this conversation, and we need to have both of them. But the upper management wants us to run programs. They want to give something back to the community. Everybody thinks that we should be doing it. So I have no worries or concerns about when we need to pull the trigger that it'll get done. My biggest concern is Baker going to come in time?
Gotcha. Okay, that's what I wanted to hear.
And
I
that
wasn't hearing
that
that.
I can't.
Yeah, no, but
Unfortunately,
that's what
that
I
I can't
wasn't
control,
hearing.
but
is
yeah.
The town's perspective is what I was looking for.
No, the town wants it to go. So, while we're on the pool, we had a comment from one of our attendees who is still with us. Thank you, Payson. So Payson Green writes, Needham has many service-related businesses. Is it possible to utilize them this year only because of this year's circumstances to donate/return their fees for the opening and or closing? The pool has a great rep. And then they write, thanks, pool boosters or PNR boosters. So there's just some comments on there for that. I just wanted to give you a heads up while we were in the rate discussion.
Wow.
Payson's one of our volleyball, he runs our volleyball program.
Okay.
Thanks, Payson.
I
Thank
love
you.
Payson. Thanks, Payson.
Really,
Yeah.
I paid for my pool membership, but use it towards opening of the pool is what I got out of that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I followed the comment.
He has raised his hand. Are you guys willing to allow him to talk?
I'm willing if the rest of the commission is.
Yes. Yes.
What's up?
All right, Payson,
Love to
you
have you on.
are,
Hi, Payson.
you can talk.
Payson.
Hi, I just, my kids grew up at the pool and my neighbors go to the pool. And we've been here since 1974. Almost back to when it was a mud flat. And we're really high on the town. I've always been high in the town. I always thought about running for office, but I never did. My friend Lance Brown, that plays volleyball with us, has been a town member now for a few years. And I just wonder about, there's so much spirit. When that pool is jumping, it's amazing. I sent video out last year from my cell phone to show my kids and other people the slide, the tube there. It's just remarkable. The pool is just fantastic. And I know my friend Marco Poolman, he's a plumber here in town. I think he did some work for you years ago on the old pool to get things running. And there's so many service-related businesses here that could be inclined for the advertising to do opening or closing. I know shutting down is a big business. I'm the facilities manager for our our small business in Woburn. I was up to there today ripping out a couple of faucets. We have to put in some new eye wash stations for staff. And I just wonder if it's inappropriate to call upon the community to step up and help in these times for opening and closing. Is that something that doesn't look right?
Thank you, Payson. I'm going to mute you now, just so you're aware. Okay.
So while we appreciate that offer, that's a fabulous offer. I don't know that it would be appropriate that we could accept those kind of services. As a municipality, I think there's a lot of rules that we have to follow to open and close the pool because it's services. But perhaps we could engage these businesses in some other facet of our opening, and maybe it would be in the marketing or I don't know, we've served free hot dogs last year, and we did something like that, and maybe there would be some way that they could help us with kind of the spirit and the marketing thing, because I love that enthusiasm that I hear from you. I don't know if the actual opening and closing procedures, if that's what you're referring to, I think we need trained professionals, and it has to go through, unfortunately, but has to go through the proper municipal procurement channels. If I'm answering his question.
Yes, you did. And I know Weston and Sampson, they're great people. I have sewage pump ejectors at work and other kinds of devices, and they've been to my building, and they're top-notch people. But I just wonder about incorporating or asking for local people in town to step up. And the other idea was about a separate. Would it compete with the Boosters Club if Park and Rec had its own organization?
Not.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Nope.
I think like the Boosters, it would have to be organized by someone other than the Park and Rec Commission. For example, the commissioners are elected, so we can't go out and fundraise. That's prohibited. But the Boosters, I think, are run. It's a different organization run by, at least started by parents and run by parents. So I think a separate organization, we would be happy, I think, to have Park and Rec Boosters.
Agree.
Definitely.
Yeah. So thank you for that idea.
We could look into it because the CAP has friends of.
Can you guys hear her?
Yeah, she's talking about people. A lot of people do friends of groups now, as opposed to a boosters.
Okay.
It's similar technology or similar. Yeah, it works the same, but the library has one. The CAF has one. Kristen, am I on point there? Yeah, I'm getting ahead now.
Is that what you
Friends
said?
of Needham Track,
Yes.
Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, all right. Melissa, I mean,
Great.
like I said, I know there was a lot of information that came out on Monday. I thought it was a very positive message that came out. There are some roadblocks that we're gonna have to look through that I know if we were meeting in regards to the bid, we might as well talk about it now because we kind of want to be ahead of it. We're so used to being reactive, and this is the time to be proactive, especially in the times that we're in. So does anybody have any other discussion items or topics they want to bring up?
No.
All right. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion
So
to
moved.
adjourn.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All those in favor, I'll go by roll call. Commissioner Chaston,
Aye.
Commissioner Geddes,
Aye.
Commissioner Tulin.
Aye.
The chair is also an aye. I appreciate everyone coming on tonight on a special, meeting for the agenda, and I appreciate it. And Michelle, happy birthday to Dylan.
Thank you.
Hopefully he left you some pancakes.
I know, fingers crossed.
Kristen's waving
Bye,
goodbye.
Kristen's waving bye, Kristen.
Always a pleasure. Always good. Thanks for calling in, caller.
All right. Bye, guys. I am stopping recording.
Good night.
Ange, can you hear me? You need to
Yeah.
do more shoulder exercise. You kept having to switch hands.
My hand's sore from typing all the time.
And now my video works perfectly.
Oh, I'm so